All right, welcome. Today is episode 150. So that's kind of a milestone, I think, right? 150.
Nice even number.
It's not 100, but when you put it in the context of like we're doing it once a week, that's a good amount of these that we've put out now.
You wanted to stop on 150?
Huh?
Really?
That's your way of saying it's our penultimate episode.
This is our finale today.
It's a two-parter. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I was having not the best morning today. Like, woke up on the wrong side of the bed, just not feeling my best. And you know, there's a reason behind it. And to tell you the truth, I didn't think it was. Had a good couple months. Honestly, just like with how I've been feeling in general, physically pretty healthy, like had a good spring. You know, we did Summer Shred, did the Open, got myself in some pretty decent shape again. And we went on really fun trips and really just living life and having some fun. Coached my son's baseball team, really busy spring, like just moving and going nonstop. But then today kind of crept up, and today marks a year that my brother passed away, and some of you guys might have remembered him when he was here at the gym for a while, and my brother and myself were really close siblings too, so it wasn't like someone who I didn't talk to. Like, he was like my guy. He was my best friend. And I just woke up and I was bummed out and negative and felt bad about myself and like just kind of in a dark spot. And
Well, it's interesting to see like where your mind will go, because I knew I could kind of feel almost the shift like on Monday, like leading up to this week. But I think, you know, it's kind of human nature to not just want to think about the thing that hurts the most. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I mean, if I'm allowed to be transparent with like our conversations this morning, you were making it about like you and like, hey, you know, my body hurts today. I feel like maybe my training's not going so well. I don't want to be on here and be fake. I also don't want to be on here and be down, but we'll start to make it more than it is, because it's more comfortable to make it about like, hey, my training sucks, my body sucks. The gym isn't exactly where I want it to be, and just go in on every other area of our life, which makes us feel way fucking worse than if we make it about the one thing that it is. But that thing hurts the most, and we all do it. You know, I see my clients do it. It's easier to see someone else do it, because when you're standing in your own shit, it's hard to see your own stuff. But like, it's just really interesting what the mind will do to protect us from the thing that hurts the most. And we'll look at all these other things, because, you know, the hard thing is the hard thing.
Yeah. Well, and I think with that thing too, it's tough because it's not a fixable problem. I'm really used to, you know, especially with things like the gym, or doesn't matter any relationship or thing, like I try.
The person's still alive.
You try and solve problems. So it's, you know, okay, got to get to work. I'm going to take action. That's going to make me feel better. And then that this is like one of those things where it's just, it's not a solvable problem. You know, it just hurts and it's tough and it's part of life. And, you know, if any of us live long enough, we're going to deal with it over and over and over again, and with, you know, closer and closer people to us, the longer we're able to hang on there, you know. And this is just that I've had a lot of family members, you know, pass away that were older, and, you know, aunts, uncles, grandparents, things like that, but not ones that were younger than me or that I was that intertwined with, and that it's been tough.
Dave, you lost your friend around this time last year.
A few weeks ago now.
Yeah.
June 6th, Michael passed away. Yeah. So I mean, it was a few weeks before Alex.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah. I mean, on that day, I kind of was thinking about it a little bit, but I just, I think there was so much reflection at the time it happened that, I feel like every day at some point or many times during the week, I often think of him. So just kind of on that day, it didn't like kind of hit me too hard because I think I just kind of regularly remember him and think about him. There's some pictures on our fridge and stuff. So I think it was a day where I kind of just made a point to kind of think about it a little bit more. And obviously, I was kind of flashing back to kind of that particular day and that time period and the people I had talked to, and when Chelsea had given me the news and stuff. But yeah, it's hard. It's because there's kind of like we were talking beforehand. There's always this feeling of like, was there anything I could have done? What I could have, should have, like, how could I have stopped this? And unfortunately, many times there really isn't. And maybe some of the things that you can take away from an event like that is maybe I can, if there were things that maybe I didn't say or didn't know or just thought, it'll be fine. Like maybe going forward, that is a knowledge I can use to help myself or other people going forward.
Yeah.
To maybe prevent something like that from happening again.
Yeah.
But often I don't think that's, you don't use that in a way to like blame yourself or others. Like I should have stopped this.
Yeah.
I don't think like that's not where it goes, but just like, what can I learn from this?
Well, you saw it, immediately following that, the Lazard died in CrossFit. So watched the whole global community just, freak out right after all of that. And then they're, pointing fingers and everyone reacting in wildly different ways and kind of seeing it just seemed like that time period, when that happened was like kind of consumed with people dying, and that was just like that's what people were talking about. And that had never seemed to be this like central theme. And it was really hurtful to, I guess our like global brand in CrossFit in general, like the games and everything, and just CrossFit had been on this a bit of like a rebound upswing post-COVID. Now it wasn't this rapid one, but it was ticking up year after year, and then that happened. And
when something horrible happens, everyone wants someone to blame, even if there's no one to blame.
Yeah,
right. Like whether it's COVID or any war, or there's usually not one single. Like if we get injured, there's usually not one thing that causes it. It's like, well, you have weak abs and weak glutes, and you've got 15 things going on, and then you were tired that day. And it's usually the same thing with death or anything horrific, like, not getting into like the specifics of what happened with these people, but, they weren't in a good spot. Yep. And I'm sure people that love them try to help them, and, they have to make that decision, unfortunately, to help themselves. And, the CrossFit thing, that was horrific. It was horrible, but it's really horrible. It happened. I can't believe that so many people go and push themselves out at the games, and this hasn't happened before, honestly, with how hot it is and just being out there. And I'm not saying it's okay, but it's like sometimes we just want to blame someone and get pissed off, and I don't think it helps. And we, as it was hard for us not to do that with Alex and any ourselves, other people, whatever, and just kind of make the circle back around us, this person, back to us again. And the truth is, you never really know. When you don't really have answers, it's hard. But I think like most things in life, we're not going to get answers for. I used to think like every time I was sad, or even like with therapy, and try to do all these forms of therapy, especially the somatic stuff where you can feel it in your body. I always want an answer, like, what is that? And you might find like the emotion behind it, like sadness. You're trying to find this like root emotion, but not always like the root cause. And that's the goal. Like, when's the first time you felt sad? Like, where does that come from? But, sometimes you just don't know. Exactly. And it's making peace with like the unknown, a little bit of it. And, but then also not like being blinded to like what's really going on.
Yeah.
You know, especially like our intuition you had a really strong intuition with your brother a couple of times that, you know, you should be closer to him or do certain things that were a little extreme. And it's hard because it's like, you know, especially as your life, you get older, to go live, like move to Puerto Rico and live with him, or, you know, uproot your life seems very extreme, but, you know, it's good to reflect on and think about, and like, hey, maybe sometimes we should be more like moved in the moment to go do something extreme to show someone love, and who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Who gives a shit if your business goes down for a year? You never regret like that act of love, you know?
Yeah.
Going out of your way. And even if it doesn't produce the end result, that person always like feels that you love them. And Alex lived with us for a while, you know, before he passed away. He had some memory issues, and that was tough. It was hard on our family. It was tough for you to get your work done here, but I think he always remembered that, you know. But it doesn't mean you don't still think you could have done more.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, I think sometimes we put this huge importance on maintaining routines and different things that, you know, you'll see people like they can't bend on a lot of stuff, and then suddenly none of that mattered, like at all, you know, whether it was like stuff they were trying to maintain, or like I have to work until, you see it a lot of where I think almost anyone can relate, is they see people who they know who worked until they were, you know, 70 years old. And then, you know, they were always pushing for this like dream retirement, and then they get sick and pass away, like, you know, a year after that, or they have a heart attack, or, you know, right when they got to retirement it was supposed to be this like, you know, the whole crescendo of like what you were building up to in your life, and then you know, you passed away. And so I think you know, at least in my mind, I'm just trying to live and enjoy what we're doing, like in the moment, because you're not guaranteed the next day, or trying to save up for this time that, you know, I've seen a lot of people do that, and then their retirement doesn't necessarily, like, that isn't their glory days. Yeah. You know, they're sitting around, they don't have maybe a ton of like things on their plate, and they feel a little bit unfulfilled. So I think we have to really work on experiencing life, enjoying it in the moment, and not being too attached to maybe certain outcomes. You know, I know that I can get that way, whether it's with, you know, I'm always like into goal setting, and you certainly can't expect a certain result without, you know, trying to plan for it and do it. But when you have little bumps and hiccups in the way, like if you have, you know, if someone's like looking at a retirement plan or whatever it is, and you freak out, you know, like when the stock market went sideways a few months ago, like, you know, everyone freaked out, and it's back and it's up now, and, you know, and that all quieted down, and you got to just keep living and trying to enjoy the time that you have while you're here, and not be too attached, I think, just to like certain outcomes.
It's just hard because there's so, even with that foresight and knowledge, that it's a cliche that everyone, you know, when they're in retirement, they died 2 years after they retired, like, hey, you got to live in the moment, you got to live now, you can't just put it off to later. There is some sense that like there's a lot, even when I'm younger, I have to do to like kind of plan for the future.
Yeah.
There's things I need to get done that afford me to like survive right now. You can't just always do what you want. Like, I think that's a hard part. I think like about us getting kind of like middle ages. Like, I think an earlier part of your life, it's about you're doing a lot of stuff that you want to do and enjoy, and then you get to this point in life, you're like, I'm just doing things that like I have to do and maintain like like equilibrium.
Yeah.
And that gets kind of really unsatisfying
Yeah.
sometimes. You're like, there's just stuff I need to do now, and it's not like the stuff I want to do. So how can I enjoy life so much when it's about like just maintaining like everything?
Vacation.
Yeah, vacation. It's just like
I know
it's
what
like
you mean.
It's trying to balance that,
Balance
like,
all of that.
of just the things I need to do, to take care of my family, friends, my kids, my dogs, and also try to enjoy the moment. And then like you should be like putting some money away so you don't have nothing, but like you can't just kind of blow it all on the things you want now just because you enjoy it. And then you do want to have some stuff to like hopefully retire and enjoy some years with some resources to not be living on the street.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, we just,
so it's just,
yeah.
It's, I mean, that stuff's, I mean, my wife doesn't stress about it. I feel like that's some stuff that I think about and stress about more, just like making sure we have enough at some point in time where I don't want to work till I'm 80.
Right.
Especially I feel like with our generation.
Yeah.
Like, is there going to be Social Security?
Right.
So,
no, we were just having that conversation with our financial advisor yesterday because, this life, it's really cool and it's kind of like alternative in the fitness industry, but it's kind of like high burnout because I think you're always looking at yourself. It's like you're always looking at yourself in the mirror and you're always kind of trying to be a leader in some way. You're a coach and you're kind of a mentor to everyone that you come across. And it can just feel like the weight of it can feel like a lot. And
just owning it. But I mean, I don't like, you guys have a very successful business, but it's every day is a lot. Like, I don't know if people are really like, even if it's a successful business or one that you're starting off, or it's like just trying to blossom and grow, it's very stressful because like it's all on you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you have a lot to watch out for and maintain. Even when it's going well, it's like randomly any day 500 people could quit. Like there's just no guarantee. Like there isn't any job, but I think it's there's a lot of pressure in that to keep the thing going. It's
personal, especially like even though this is a larger CrossFit gym, I mean, that kind of contributed to you not wanting to do 150 today. Hey, you saw a couple cancellations come through, especially when they're older members. We understand people are going to move on, but it's like, hey, is this friend breaking up with me? Yeah, do they not like me anymore? Do they not like what I'm putting out there? And it's really, really personal. Yeah. It's like, it's kind of like your artwork or, your workouts are kind of like a display of what you think is good in moving your body in a certain way. And I think it can be very, very rewarding, but I mean, I think about that all the time. When we were in Spain, I was like, listen, I'm a little hungover every day, but I feel so much better here because I don't have laundry to worry about. The kids are on the grandparents' time. Like, I just wake up, I make the room a freaking mess. Someone comes and cleans it every day, like little fairies, magic fairies. And I don't worry about it. I just exploded everything. And then it's like, well, where are we going to walk around? And that looks cool. We'll eat here. And I didn't even want a dinner reservation after we got past the first 2 days. Like, I don't care, and it's, and think that's like, to your point, like it's this struggle between responsibility, because that responsibility does make you proud of yourself. I was just thinking about
it gives you purpose. It gives you
meaning.
Even
like taking care of
you out, and it just seems like I'm not doing anything fun anymore.
Right.
So I feel like you need to, like you said, whether it's vacation, like you need to find things that interject some I'm going to leave my room a mess.
Right. I was having these deep thoughts as I was like watering this dying plant. I'm always watering dying plants, and I can never keep anything live. In fact, this is a funny story. Yeah, except for kids. Brandon's mom got me a fake plant, but I didn't realize it was a fake plant. I would water it every now and then, only when she would come over, which was about once a month, and I didn't realize the water wasn't like seeping in, and so I realized his mom was coming over, and I'm like, oh, shit, I forgot to water this plant again. I don't know how it hasn't died. And I poured a bunch of water on it. And there was water all over the floor. And she came over, and she's like, what is this water all over the floor? And I'm like, oh, I was probably in a hurry. I just probably like spilt some when I watered this plant. And she's like, Kate, that plant is fake. And I probably had it for 2 years.
I knew I was doing too good of a job with this plant.
But I was thinking about this when I was watering this plant, because Charlotte and I walked past this house, and it was like a small house in Grandview, and there was this old couple sitting outside, and it had this really pretty garden, and I'm just not a gardener. but I know it's so healthy for you. And I keep thinking like I should do it. Like there's something to this, like your hands in the earth, whatever. And they were sitting outside and I was like, oh, your garden's so pretty. And they're like, thank you. We love this and it really serves us. And so I started thinking about that this morning. I'm like, the things, or yesterday when I was watering plants, the things that we take care of is really what gives us purpose, but it's all this responsibility kind of just wears on you. It pisses you off, like this cat we have that just seems so high maintenance. She eats like 6 times a day and once in and out 12 times a day, but it's really like what makes you happy. Or taking care of plants or taking care of kids. And then you see it when kids go off to school, like parents are usually depressed. And you've had family members that really just went downhill after that. And it's all this like responsibility. Or if you're married and you're like, this person's a pain in the ass, I always got to pick them up, or you can talk to them. And you lose that. That's actually what, like, that was a friction that made you happy. And it's like, we don't want any of this responsibility, but this responsibility is like what keeps you going. But then if you get too bogged down with it, it's what like gets you too set in your ways where you can't break free from, I can't leave work, or I can never travel there. Yeah. That's too crazy. That's too insane. And I think you brought that up because we were really trying to urge your brother to live in Puerto Rico. It was kind of like a dream of his. And he's like, well, I have to work this many days or this or that. We knew he was a little down. So I drew up this whole financial sheet like, hey, you actually only need to get a job that pays you like $1,500 a month because you have these rental properties or this or that. You just stupid job. But I think he was like, a little embarrassed to just get a maintenance job or, not something that was like on the same par as where he was at. And it's such shades of gray, where like you can't get stuck in any one way, but you can't just be irresponsible and pick up and leave. And I like one of my best friends, we had always talked about going to Australia, and she called me up. She's like, Kate, I'm going to Australia. And I'm like, sweet, when? She's like next week. And I'm like, awesome. She's like, yeah, I don't have a job yet. And so long story short, she flew out there. She lived in Perth, which is on the West Coast. And apparently the cost of living is really high. So they're in like the most beautiful place, but she's working like 3 jobs. She didn't get a job. So she's like waitressing and doing all this stuff.
The US dollar at that time also, I do remember, I think the Australian dollar was it was a real bad rate, like a 2 to 1. Now I think it's 1 to 1, or the US might have even gone over it. But at the time, I do remember even looking that up. It was like poor. It was a bad exchange.
She's like, what's the point of being here? I just work all the time. People treat me like shit. Because they're all rich. People are either rich or they're poor, and they treat you like crap if you're poor. And we're so poor we can't do anything. And then the guy she was dating, she's like, he's depressed. He's just staying inside. The weather's beautiful. He won't go out to the beach. And she was really sad. So it's like, in the cliche, like a place doesn't make you happy. It's true. But to go see cool parts of the world does add something to your life and enrich it. It's like this timing is really everything in life. Like time, like the more I kind of read and live life, it's the timing of everything. The timing of when you say something, the timing of when you do something. You're not forcing something. So you wait till you're motivated to actually pursue a goal. You wait till you're really tired and actually rest, not just when it looks like, hey, the clock says this, or I'm supposed to do this, or I'm supposed to propose to this person. I mean, how many friends have you guys known that have gotten divorced that was like, it just seemed like the right time, and all my friends were getting married, and then we had been dating 3 years, and she's looking at me like, what's going on? It's like the timing, and it's just like so nuanced to, you're not always going to stay happy. And then just to let yourself be sad sometimes.
Time out.
We were going to end there, but Brandon and Dave convinced me that we should bring it back a little bit.
Best bench press accessory work. This one.
Argue about this forever.
Or this one, the rollback one.
That one's harder for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Okay. We got that one knocked out. That one solved.
It's good. All of life problems are now solved. Really.
It was only as easy as the gym. No, I just think like what you're getting at. It's hard to be a person. It's hard to get it right.
Yeah.
I think being around people, and just connecting though, is big. It really helps. I want to go, like, if I'm not feeling good, my instinct is to like run away from everyone, and that makes it kind of drives me into a hole.
I think that's
there could be a time and place for that. I think
Right.
just being your personality, but you can't hide forever
Yeah.
from people. And I think that which against your better judgment, sometimes I think most people, you need some connection to others, and I think that's been proven in the data now, and in as far as research goes into what makes people thrive and what really kills people over time is just we're social creatures. That's how we evolved, and whether it's in celebration or in grief, there's a time to do that with others.
Yeah.
And to kind of hide too long is probably not great, but I understand that too. Like just depending on your personality, how you're wired, there's times where I think I need some solitude. And there's times where maybe I really don't want to be around other people, but I find myself feeling better afterwards.
Yeah.
I think it's just kind of to know yourself and how you're wired, and like so you almost have to fight against it. You know what I mean? Like I want to move too much. Like when I'm sad, you want to stay still. Like this time last year, all the training, I was showing up every day. I didn't care how much I slept. You were kind of, you still came in to move, but you really listened to your body and was just kind of forcing yourself to move. Yeah. I just blast through everything, and then it takes a toll on my body. But I'll want to not be around people too. I was thinking of this study when you guys were talking about that. It's like conversations on airplanes, and it was like this survey. Do you like to talk to people on airplanes? And almost like most people said no. And it was like, why? Do you think that it will, make you less happy? And they're like, yeah, it'll just kind of be annoying. It'll be forced. It'll kind of take my energy and whatever. And then they had, a group that talked to people and a group that didn't. And then there was this control group. And so basically the evidence of this story pointed to every person that had the conversation, even when they didn't want to, felt better afterwards.
This is the Ethan Cross. I think he did Chatter.
Okay, yeah. I'm really bad at remembering.
No, I know the guy that basically did his sociologist or psychologist that did this research. But basically, like, to talk to strangers, people are terrified to do that in a public setting. And they did some stuff on, like, the trains going to work in the morning. They would do things like that where... What was your interpretation? What was your prediction? Are you going to feel better just listening to your music or iPods in the morning? Or are you going to feel worse or better if you talk to someone or do whatever? So they test these people, and even though it sounded terrifying, talking to a stranger like on a public transit system in the morning ended up being a greater experience than they thought ahead of time. Right. And it's just kind of the data on those things is really cool.
It is interesting because I was thinking the same thing, and maybe I just made it an airplane because I think we were getting ready to fly.
They did that in all sorts of stuff.
Okay,
just in general, the idea of like being and it's the like whether it's a bus or a train or airplane is because you've got people in an enclosed space and they have to do it and they don't know each other. People think. I think part of that too is people don't want to hear what I have to say. Whatever. And there was so much like really cool kind of data and like answers they got from those studies because people were like, "This is one of the best conversations I've had in my entire life."
Yeah.
Some people said that.
Yeah.
To someone they didn't even know. They just kind of ended up going, bleh.
Interesting. Yeah.
And it was someone they didn't know. And I think like the surprise of like forming connections you don't know just ended up being like really amazing for these people.
Right.
And I think like, why don't we take that knowledge going forward? I feel like not to cut you off too much from that, but I remember listening to him talk about that in a podcast interview about that research and that study. And it was just so interesting. And I kind of think about times where I like having little interactions with a cashier or some of the store. If they say, like, I just think those little interactions are really nice. And I don't have to talk to them for 10 minutes, but I like kind of trying to have interactions with people I don't know throughout the day, like at a coffee shop or a cashier, things like that. I think it's just kind of fun.
Well, yeah, and you know what's cool about that is they're different from you. So if we're talking to people in a fitness community and you kind of hear the same thing all the time, I mean, even like when I listen to Brandon and I talk, I'm like, oh, we kind of talk the same now. Like we need to keep talking to other people and having like new thoughts. And you know, I'm just thinking like the old lady you talked to on the plane. And even though she was kind of grumpy, like coming back from Spain, she's like, oh, if you see one beach, you've seen it all. And I grew up but it's just interesting to hear like her take on life, and is interesting to see. I mean, she could hardly get in and out of her seat.
She's like 90 years old, and
she was
been
going on these 3-week cruises.
No, not 3 weeks. 4 months.
Oh yeah.
She went
right.
she
crazy.
So she just spent half her year basically. It might have been 6 months. She would start like in late fall, and then she would just wrapped up. So she spent all winter, like depending on where it was, it had like, you know, it was almost like where people retire and they live on a cruise boat. She had been doing that, and like, I helped her kind of in and out of the plane, and like and helped her with her bags and stuff. But yeah, I talked to her like the entire time. Like,
and I was like, oh God, I'm so glad I'm not sitting there and having to do this.
But it was interesting. She had a lot of cool stuff
for me to just listen. And to me, I think we all make up our own stories why we shouldn't talk to people. Like, I don't think, oh, I'm embarrassed. I won't have anything to say. I just think, oh, it's going to be too much energy. I don't like, I just want to be left alone and I don't need this. But it's really all the same thing. I'm just lying to myself because I don't want to feel uncomfortable for a second.
Yeah.
You know,
that's what
discomfort.
people think. They just think they predict they're going to feel very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But once they kind of just let that down, they end up having a good time. And like, it's just everyone's life to some extent that you don't know about is kind of interesting. So
exactly.
As long as you're kind of nice, I would sit in a train or an airplane and listen to talk about like whatever. I think that's happened to me before, and like sometimes it just organically happens. So I'm never really afraid to kind of let that roll if I'm in that situation.
Yeah, I try to, like, if I get in a rhythm of going to a certain place to get coffee and it's the same person working, like I get to know them and you know, stores anywhere. Like I know the lady who works at Vitamin Shop, you know, like now. She came and did like a tasting or a thing here because like we just got to know each other and I would just strike up conversation. Do that with the people at Starbucks sometimes, you know. I really do think having that connection, and that's the whole reason this is here, is because we took a chunk out of these big box gyms where everyone was putting headphones in and just spreading out, and like the culture was to look at the ground and not to talk to anybody. And I think even to some degree it still is in a lot of those places. It's thought that you're training harder or something if you like are like staring at the ground and you don't want to like talk to anyone because you're focused. And
it's fine. Like to some extent it's good. Like you're getting hurt.
It is. But I think where this is an alternative in like what we do, it's like you're bringing people together in a group.
That's
like,
the stickiness of gyms. That's what makes people come and stay. It's like, oh, there's a time and place where I can maybe do my workouts or focus.
And no one's talking to each other during a WOD.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's a time to be intense and whatever, but like
you're rubbing shoulders and after, with people.
You're asking people about their lives and whatever. And I think that's really great. And I think that's why we're thriving here. But I think like to your point, Dave, like to get out of your norm and talk to people that aren't like you, that's really what makes you grow. Like even this old lady, you can take something from this. Like that's pretty freaking cool. She's traveling all over the world at her age and not having fear about it. Like if she can do that, I can do that. What makes her like this much more special or brave or whatever. You just see these examples of different ways to live life. And I think that's the point of kind of connecting with other people. You can kind of take something from them. You might say like, okay, I'll throw that out, but it's still even like, think about it. Like, why couldn't I try that sometime? That's not normally what I would do, but hey, maybe I could drive out west for a vacation to do something different, to like have a road trip or not even vacations, but just simple everyday things and your cadence and your rhythms of what you do. I've been watching The Sopranos. I'm like, let's try drinking a bottle of wine every night. It looks fun. They're having fun. let's just do it for a month and let's report at the beginning of the month and at the end of the month. And we'll see how much we ate.
Any show you watch like that, though, it's like if you watch
They're drinking every night.
Peaky Blinders, anything that it's because they need them to be doing something. So there's always like some booze and stuff going, and I'm like, everyone on all these shows are just straight alcoholics.
And then also, if you
at
kill people for a living, it seems that you need alcohol to
you
keep
probably
going.
need a drink to just like
Cope with that.
Yeah. But no, they're always. I mean, it's just constant like boozing throughout the day. Like it'll be midday. Like here's a drink, and it's just like, man, these guys are drinking all.
I want to go to Artie's restaurant every night and split a bottle of wine. For just 1 month.
Yeah,
Nice Italian
that'd be
restaurant.
fun. Oh, that was like what we did in Spain. So there we go. We just already did
For
that.
a week.
So
That's great.
yeah.
And the wine there has no preservatives and nitrates. People say it's like it doesn't affect you as much.
It doesn't.
No, it has so much alcohol,
Yeah.
but like there are certain things in it that I think make it easier to recover from.
Absolutely. Yeah. They had the cava there. The cava there was cheaper than water. It was like €5.50 for a cava, and it was like $6 to $7 for a water. A soda water in a glass or a bottled water. It didn't matter. It was pretty wild.
So cava's like the champagne there. So it's
Yeah.
just like their sparkling wine. Yeah. Wine's cheap over there, and it's good anywhere almost in like Spain, Italy, or France. You're gonna get good. You don't need to get the expensive bottle on the thing. You just get like
Second cheapest wine.
Yeah, exactly.
That was a sketch. Yeah.
Give me your second cheapest wine.
Second cheapest wine.
Yeah.
So Cliff's notes to sum up: grief is hard.
Yeah.
Don't delay happiness to the future. Live it now.
Yes.
What else did we talk about?
Be around people.
Be around people. Connect with people. We didn't get to your period.
I'm on my period today. I thought we could do the whole podcast on my period.
We'll get to that.
A lot of listeners would
We'll have a
tune
bonus
in.
content for this episode. We'll link below to Kate's
The
solo
secret
episode.
notes. I'm going to be here by myself.
Gross women's health podcast. Yeah.
Talk to people in public. What else do we get to?
Yeah. Talk to people in public. That's a good one. I like that.
Live life, I guess, in the middle, right?
Yeah.
Like any extreme, it's not going to be good.
So we're going to be off, a couple weeks now, Kate?
We'll be on next week.
Okay.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Next week is 4th of July. We'll be
Yeah.
off next week.
on the
following week.
Then off a week.
Off 2 weeks, I think, in a row.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll be a little bit sparse with this. We'll try and find a good guest, I think, for that 1 week and keep the podcast rolling. I was a little negative today and didn't want to do it, but keeping those routines and those rituals, I think, does help and feel a little better rather than just being in a hole and not wanting to do it today. And get to go coach some kids, and that'll always bring your mood up when you got a bunch of little kids. So,
Or at least make you present.
yeah,
You're going to have to focus regardless how well it goes.
Absolutely. All right.
See you guys.
Off.
Bye.